We're going to talk about today the world we all miss. And we all seem to think that we are living fully in our present world, but there's important parts of it that perhaps are going by us without being harnessed and fostered. So, my dear friends, we all perceive and experience our life's journey through three inner worlds, because inner world is where we project, we think, we experience, we go into. So there are three such inner worlds right now. And those three worlds combined make up what we know as reality. Now, what are these worlds? So first there is the world of the past, where all our experiences and memories from the moment we were born as little children, we grew up as little children, grew to this age, all those experiences and knowledge and memories are stored in the world of the past. And it is a world where many of us visit very frequently, and some of us, based on events that have occurred, end up living in the past. Then there is the world of the future, where it is the world where we project into this world and plan our future, plan what we need to do. Or it's a world we absolutely worry about or get fearful of, because it is filled with unknowns and uncertainties. And once again, as we journey through life with all our worries and challenges, some of us spend far too much time in the future world than we should, because it's really a world that represents options and things we have envisioned. But really, do those things transpire? Most of them don't. So that's the second world. Then there is the world of the present, where we actually experience life as it plays out before us. Life happens in the present. So let's put this in a nutshell so we can kind of visualize it from a higher plane. The past is an intelligent record of thoughts that we have fomented into memories, which are largely fixed in scope from the outset, but then we add to this intelligent record as we reflect on our memories and build our understanding of them, giving them more breadth and depth. Hence, our memories take on a new form with more reflection and understanding. And this is how wisdom is created, through gradual perfection of our memories and experiences of the past. So that's one. Next, the future is also an intelligent and evolving record of thoughts and events and all the possibilities we have envisioned, which also keeps growing and changing as we project more scenarios and possibilities into it. So the inner worlds of the past and the future are more like a store of records, like a library. Of course, the future one being far, far more dynamic than the past. So to understand them better, let us frame them through the analogy of a simple computer. Most of us have a computer. A computer has a core, an intelligent processor at its core, which is very smart. And it is totally dynamic. It does not slow down or stop. It simply keeps processing everything that is fed into it. Okay, so that's the core processor of the computer. Then the computer also has a memory that stores data. This memory requires much less intelligence compared to the processor. It mostly needs good, robust, solid storage capacity. So that is what the inner worlds of the past and the future generally are. Less intelligent storage units, and I'm putting it in really simplistic form. And of course, the picture is a lot more complicated than that, because these two data stores transmit information between one another. Like, for example, when the future becomes the past, or when the past feeds experiences to the future for use in planning. This is all, I'm putting this in very simple terms, but it's a good way of looking at these two inner worlds as large storage centers. Next, where does our intelligent processor reside? It resides in the inner world of the present, which is very fluid, dynamic, and ever-changing. The majority of the inputs we take in and process are in the present. Of course, some processing does occur in our past and future states through reflection and forward planning, but this is nowhere near comparable to the present. Basically, reflection of the past draws upon a passive intelligence, and the core intelligent processing in the present draws upon an active and dynamic intelligence in very basic terms. So we can see the difference here between the passively intelligent past and future and the dynamic present. Okay, so far we are all clear? So from this, my dear friends, we can appreciate that the present is an incredible state of being. It comprises a lot more than we realize. The present is like a pyramid, and today we are all living at the base, at the bottom of this pyramid, which embodies our so-called reality. Now, this base of the pyramid is the lowest level of intelligence of our processor. Why? Many reasons. Firstly, more than 80% of this dynamic processor is unused. Most of us tend to default to living in the past or in the future, which for all intents and purposes are our storage units, like our flash drive or like our computer memory. So really less than 20% of our intelligent processor is actually engaged. Hence our reality is restricted to the bottom of the pyramid. Imagine living an entire lifetime in two large storerooms. Depressing, isn't it? But that's where most of us are today. That's where life takes us. And the events are spiraling us more in that direction. Some of us, who may be more aware, live probably 25 to 30% in the present, or a little more. So some of us may be a little above the bottom of the pyramid. Our reality may exist little above. How sad would it be to realize at our deathbed that we lived 50, 60, 80, or 90 years in two storage rooms, our inner worlds of the past and the future, and how little we experienced of the fantastic intelligence we were born with. But by then it is too late. Our time is up. It's as if we all went to a superb cinema and ended up spending 90% of our time in two bathrooms, missing out on the real movie. This is why so many spiritual teachers emphasize living mindfully in the present. This is what they are trying to make us realize, that we are missing the movie. Now today, we're going to explore a whole new level of what we call the present. And I call it the apex level, which is at the top of the pyramid. So we have the inner worlds of the past, the future, and present, which we all know so far. And then we have the apex world, which a lot of us, most of us, have missed. And this apex world is the space before thought. It's the space before thought at the top of the pyramid, and it is a lot more than that. It is an absolutely fascinating aspect of us. Now let us explore this apex world further. So in many of my lectures, I have mentioned that we live amidst infinite intelligence. So today we will shine a brighter spotlight on this statement. I'm going to share a mind-boggling recent breakthrough in science that will help us understand this infinite intelligence better. It is about a test that was carried out recently using Google's new quantum core, which is the fastest quantum chip in the world today, absolute fastest. And it made a breakthrough that may rewrite our understanding of our science and its laws, especially physics. This breakthrough is bigger than when Einstein discovered relativity, which revolutionized and shaped human science from that time to this day. Actually, this one is a far bigger revolution than Einstein's. Now you're welcome to view the video on this of this trial on YouTube, but I warn you, it is very, very complicated. You might just get bored or, worst case, lost. So we'll, share the link with you, but let me explain it in simple layman's terms. And there are so many explanations. But what I'm going to share with you now is very pertinent to our today's topic. So this is how the experiment was done. The researchers decided to test a particular quantum model using a quantum computer based on Google's latest chip, the quantum core, to calculate and give an output showing the resulting quantum particles. So that was a simple make an input, get an output trial, okay? That's what happened. So they started making the input. And while that was happening, something miraculous occurred. The results of the calculations began to appear before the inputting was completed. How did the quantum core chip know what was in the future? How did it answer questions before they were completely asked? It's incredible, isn't it? It is like you and I answering a question before it has been asked when we're having a conversation. It's unbelievable. But now let us try and understand what really happened here. Normally, when you do quantum modeling, your output of the quantum particles appear in the form of what is called qubits, okay, quantum qubits. And they tend to have a predictable behavior, up to recently at least. Now imagine this qubit as being like the Rubik cube, that toy puzzle, which has letters and colors that you can play with, and you keep shifting until everything matches. You've all seen those in a toy shop and often even, in grocery stores. It's a great thing to play with. Sharpens the mind. Now you can think of the quantum model as having lots of such qubits that interact with each other, forming structures. Okay, so that's a simple way of looking at it. Lots of tiny little cubes behaving together a certain way in a structure. And so far, this structure has been a predictable one. Then at some point, the cubic structure all collapses. Just like when a little girl is playing with Lego. At some point, her Lego creation collapses and she starts again. But here in this test, they found that the behavior of the cubics had changed in a drastic way. They were not the same. So what happened? Very different new cubics actually began to appear while the input was being made. Now, how could that be? It should be impossible, right? Next, these cubic structures behave totally differently. They refused to collapse like the previous ones did. They were in no mood to play Lego. At first, the researchers thought it was due to interference because quantum state is a fragile state. A small interference can show you some big differences. So they repeated this test multiple times. And guess what? They saw the same results. Something new was happening here. Next, they were taken aback when they found a new energy source appear in the quantum space. A low band but powerful, clear, and present energy source. What was this new energy? And where was it coming from? Now, this sparked a lot of debate, and here is what different scientists had to say or propose. Firstly, the fact that these results were repeatable means something new was clearly happening. The fact that the answers preceded the questions is a basis for questioning reality as we know it. What they are seeing here is a new reality of a higher quantum level, suggesting the presence of more than one reality in this world. Bizarre. A reality that goes beyond what we currently understand about time and space. It has different rules, and we have to find out what they are. Some suggested that the new quantum chip had tapped into a parallel universe, and that's where the new energy was coming from. Not sure about that. Too early to say. Some suggested that this super fast quantum speed caused time to bend into a curve, allowing the chip to read what was in the future. I think the truth may be less sci-fi than that. I think it's probably a little more logical and explainable. Some propose that the quantum core tapped into consciousness, where the questions were already present. They tapped into consciousness where the questions were already present, and hence this shaped a new reality for the cubics, and hence for our world. A state the naked eye could not see, a new reality. But a state that can be seen now via quantum computers. This fourth explanation made me smile, because I had written about it in my first book 30 years ago in 1995, entitled Reflections from the Origin, where I was inspired with an explanation of how energy really flows in nature. And this energy is nothing like the energy flow as we know it. Nature has no high-tension electrical cables running all over. Nature moves energy at very low levels in a form of what I described then as decks. And that was decks which are like layers of a wafer chocolate, and energy flows in that format. And that is what the new cubic structures may be pointing us towards. These structures were also strong and did not collapse. And what makes me happy is that today, new super quantum computing is beginning to show us all this as early stage evidence and how, what it all means. And it's beginning to show us a dimension which we have all considered mystical to this day. But now we are seeing it. How do I interpret this test? Like I said earlier, at the top level of our pyramid is the quantum space that performs like a superprocessor at an incredible speed. Basically, it is much faster than our human mind or material consciousness. They cannot keep up because they are way too slow. The computer that currently processes our present reality is at the bottom of the pyramid, just like a simple laptop. Its intelligent processor has limits. It can't go any faster than that. But at the top of the pyramid is our super quantum computer that operates faster than billions of these laptops. We have both of them. This apex level is where our life intelligence and life force resides, which is common to us all because life force is one. And this is the infinite intelligence I've always said we live amidst. Now science is beginning to unfold some of this. This one universal life intelligence is the reason why we have been able to experience phenomena like telepathy, for example, because we have a common apex world. Telepathic thoughts don't flow like phone conversations from one ear to another. They exist in our apex world and are available for us to tap into. So the way I see it, this quantum space in our apex world is where the real answers lie. Now let us try and interpret the results of this test from this perspective. The researchers sat down and thought through the questions that they were going to input. So they'd already gone through the process of trying to figure out what they were going to ask. Now these thoughts emerged in the quantum space at their apex level. They emerged there. And the Google Quantum Core picked up these thoughts in the quantum space faster than the researchers could input them. Remember, they were inputting everything from the bottom part of the pyramid, from a reality that is at the bottom of the pyramid. And, this is much, much slower than the apex. In this case, the quantum chip read the thoughts of the questions from the apex level, and hence answers appeared in a baffling way, prompting people to think that the chip had tapped into the future. I believe it had not done so. The test was done in the present, and the chip operated at a much faster speed than we humans can perceive reality. That's what I think happened, and perceive reality in the present. We are all only used to functioning from the bottom of the pyramid through much slower intelligent processors like laptops. That standard, whose speed is that of a snail compared to these quantum chips. So all that likely happened was that the quantum chip read the question as soon as it emerged as thought from the apex level and processed the answers instantaneously, and therefore it was purely a matter of speed. Think of it as an onion. We know our reality today according to the outer layers of the onion. You can peel an onion into many layers. Our reality today, the way we know it, exists in the outer layers, which is pretty slow, i.e. bottom of pyramid type slow. Now think of the quantum space at the apex level as being in the center core of the onion. So the Google quantum chip read the thoughts in the core of the onion and answered them, while the questions were being input from the outer layers of the onion, a slow outer layer. You can see what happened, right? No one tapped into the future or anything like that. It was purely the speed at which the thoughts were read and processed and answered. It's logical. So in a nutshell, no time was spent. The onion was simply read faster at its core. And all of us at the outer layer of the onion today are fascinated because this transcends our super slow reality, which is the only reality we know, at least until now. Hence, it is a breakthrough for us because for the first time, we are beginning to see early stage scientific evidence of what we have always known along the lines as being mysticism. We are now seeing scientific evidence of what has been mystical to us. A second and alternate reality. And maybe there are more. Next, what was that new energy? Now you can see it is obvious. It wasn't new energy. It was the energy of the thoughts. Remember, in many of my webinars, I've talked about thought as having life, with a life energy of their own, each thought. So the quantum chip produced cubic structures, which now also displayed the energy of thought. So there were new types of cubic structures. It wasn't anything from any parallel universe, in my opinion. It was simply the energy of thought now being identified in this very universe, in the present. And this is the energy I described in my first book 30 years ago. And I eagerly await more such new findings that will explain thought to us all in much deeper ways with real evidence. And also, that these tests, these new findings will demonstrate to us the power of collective thought as a result. revealing to us just how powerful our collective consciousness is. Think of it, think of its energy. We can now see that this collective energy is capable of shaping and rewriting reality at the outside of the onion. So it has the power to change reality, to change events. Remember, the new cubics were a distinct reality in themselves. They existed and could be seen. So we have all grown up with the notion seeing is believing, right? Well, now this additional reality just became believable. A reality written by thoughts of the researchers, which were purely scientific. My dear friends, this is the reason why we have performed 9 collective global meditations since the year 2003. Each one in a very special part of the earth, called focal points, whose characters I have also described in my book, The Alakansera Rise Again, in 2005. So it's all there. You can look up these unique places and the meditations we did on our website. There's good information there. So our goal so far has always been to foster positive change in our world and in humanity. And our next global meditation will be held with the focal point of the oldest temple in the world, Göbekli Tepe, which is 12,000 years old, and it's in Turkey. And there are specific reasons why this site was chosen for us to focus from. And I will cover these reasons in an upcoming webinar, in one of the next ones. The theme of this meditation is reviving our human spirit. What does that mean? When we were all born, we were born completely innocent and pure. And all we projected was our pure, innocent human spirit, which embodied love, empathy, compassion, harmony, peace, and a lot more. These are the characteristics that we all came in this world with. And then we got engrossed in material life, and we lost so many of these characteristics, and they were replaced by the opposite of our human spirit: anger, hate, greed, destruction, jealousy, envy. We became the opposite of who we really are. And so the purpose of reviving the human spirit is to restore what we really are again as individuals and collectively as a humanity. And please review the video called Reviving the Human Spirit in our YouTube channel, where there's a lot more mentioned about the human spirit. But in summary, while I know that these quantum tests are complex, I hope I have helped us decipher what I believe happened in simpler language. In slow motion steps, this is what we can all take away from this. Thoughts were created at the core of the onion, within the quantum space before thought. They were read instantaneously by Google's super-fast quantum core and processed, and the answers were output instantaneously, while the actual input was being made into the system from the outer layers of the onion. That's what happened. The so-called new energy source in the cubic structures was none other than our thought energy, which caused a behavior and a distinct new reality none of us had seen before until this test was done. And we eagerly await more information from more tests to expand our understanding of what our reality is, while we all move forward together to change our world from negative thought energy to positive thought energy through collective power of meditation and collective consciousness. It is also now easier for us to understand that negative thought energy will produce negative quantum cubic structures, hence a negative reality. Now we can see that. And positive thought energy will produce a positive reality. So our thoughts produce our reality. The famous Japanese scientist Masaru Emoto demonstrated this with water, where And I've described this in many of our webinar videos, but he took petri dishes with water, and then he put a message, a thought. So on one dish he put love, another one harmony, another one anger, another one hate, another one envy, a mixture of positive and negative thoughts. And the negative thoughts and then after that he froze the water, and the water produced crystalline structures, which he photographed and shared, and they're all available online, and they're also available in our videos. So the negative thoughts Emoto placed in water produced chaotic, shapeless crystals, just chaos. Why was that? It was because water is the most intelligent element on this planet, containing endless quantum spaces of the apex world. It has all of that, endless. And this negative thought energy was absorbed into these spaces of that water sample. Negative energy is divisive, like nuclear fission. So particles will keep splitting apart and repelling each other. Hence, when such water is frozen and pictured, its crystals show no real form, just chaos. And that's what Emoto proved. Positive energy is unifying, and the quantum spaces were filled with particles or cubic structures that attract one another, producing beautiful, perfect crystalline structure forms when this water was frozen and pictured. You see, it all makes logical sense, and this is why we must always choose positivity over negativity as our state of being. Remember, we are all made up of 80% plus water. Full of negativity, I hate to think what our blood looks like. So, all these new findings and the logic I've been sharing with you exemplifies the importance and power of collective thought, collective focus, and collective consciousness. It is very powerful. It is the most potent way of changing our world back to what it deserves to be. Now, here's a good analogy that demonstrates how our collective meditations can cause changes far greater than we can imagine. Here's a good analogy. So there was a river on whose banks was a large area of grassland. Okay? River, large area of grassland on its banks. It had lots of deer that ate the grass, keeping the grass short always and sometimes uprooting it, and often causing the grass to get burned in the hot sun because it had no cover. They also ate all the leaves and plants and shrubs, which ultimately died off. Then a small pack of wolves came to this place, small pack, and they ate all the deer because it was good food for them. Now, once the deer were gone, the grass began to grow tall again. New plants and trees began to grow, creating a forest. Its fruits attracted birds. All kinds of creatures began to live in the forest. For example, newly present worms attracted rodents that attracted larger predators. So the forest became filled with wildlife. Then came the beavers, who built dams in the river that gradually changed the entire course of the river, making it flow in a totally new direction. A small step, like the coming of a few wolves, changed the entire landscape and went as far as shifting the direction of a large river. Something we would all have considered impossible. These wolves had no idea that they could cause such profound change. Similarly, when we all come together in collective meditation, we sow powerful seeds of change via our collective thought. And we can change through that the entire course of our world and humanity for the better. It takes a small first step that triggers change at a grand scale. As I said earlier, our May 9th meditation, global meditation, seeks to sow seeds of revival of the human spirits. seeds which have the potential to establish a whole new positive and harmonious world where we can all thrive for generations to come. So should we not strive along those lines to achieve that? We know we have the capacity, we know we have the capability. Let's come together and make it happen. Just as negative media has bombarded us and made us, go down the hole into a negative society, let's do the opposite. Use the same power. Fill our consciousness, our quantum spaces with positivity. My dear friends, from what we have learned today, the great news is that we all have access to our apex world. And we can start learning how to achieve this access so as to deeply enhance our experiences of the rest of the time that we have left in this world. When you think of our apex world as the space before thought, from where thought actually emerges, it should make you pause and smile, because we are going to start accessing this world through meditation and other related ways. Let us now move to learning how to access our apex world at the top of the pyramid. Let's start by making a few clear sets of understandings. We start by recognizing that our ultra-intelligent life force and life energy resides in our apex world. Okay, so we understand that. We are all familiar with what life force and its energy and intelligence are, so I don't need to expand on that. Life force keeps us all and all of nature alive and functioning in a highly intelligent manner. Look at the incredible diversity of nature and how it all functions seamlessly. No human mind can even begin to conceive something like this, something as complex as this. But the intelligence of life force certainly can. Next, in this inner world of life force which resides at the top of the pyramid, it is where our one soul is present. Remember, the scriptures say we created you from one soul. Hence, life force and intelligence are one and universal to all in nature. No one is privileged to have more of anything or less of anything. They are available to all, making us all one consciousness as a humanity. When we step into this inner world, we begin to live its pure intelligence. I am life, you are life, and collectively we are all life. One life. So you're not the individual, or I'm not the individual Amyn, or Karima, or Tosin, or Naila. You are the ever-intelligent life force. We are all that ever-intelligent life force. So it's an important understanding. And in the apex world, you have that super fast quantum space, which is much, much faster than the quantum computer, which today is being viewed as a breakthrough, exposing that our reality may not be what we think it is. It is a lot more. Makes it very exciting. For all of us living at the outside of the onion, our reality is sequential the way we have come to know it with respect to time. One event follows another. One idea follows another. Everything is sequential. But when we become life force in the apex world, what does our reality look like? Sequential? Certainly not, because that would be way too elementary and basic. Is it diverse? It absolutely is. How diverse? I would say infinitely diverse. So diverse that we cannot even begin to imagine it via the human mind. Hence, we don't need to try to imagine anything in the process of entering or going into that space. We just have to make ourselves present to experience it. Remember, the scriptures describe our Creator, the source of life force, with the words, "He is beyond all imagination." And this is what our new understanding should be pointing us towards, beyond all imagination. So now, we start by accepting that we cannot get into the apex world through mental imagination. Hence, we have to abandon any ideas that we can actually imagine what the apex world is like. So let's not waste our time imagining anything. So how do we make ourselves present in the apex world? Over the past 5 years, we have all practiced meditation together based on a series of steps that help us sharpen and sustain our focus. And we've done this regularly together as a group, and there's videos on the YouTube channel which lots of people around the world are practicing. Now, let us revisit those steps in light of what we have learned today. So, step one in preparing for the meditation is clearing of our mind. We clear our mind of all our thoughts and emotions. We let them go. In that preparation step, we think of a bird cage. And this bird cage is full of tiny little birds, beautiful little birds, tiny, flying around the cage, chirping away, causing chaos. The cage is our mind, and those birds are our thoughts. And so we open the cage door and let the birds fly away into the horizon, chirping away as noisily as they like. We empty that cage. And when that cage is empty, we cleanse it. We cleanse it of all the residues of the birds, which means we cleanse our mind of all the residues of our emotions and hurts and experiences. We clean the slate. So that's the first step. Next, we go into pure stillness. Now, we do that by walking into a lake, crystal clear water lake, and as the water reaches our knees, we look down and we see the water in the form of small, tiny ripples around our knees. But we want the water to go still, so still, that we can see the reflection of our face in the water. We make it like a mirror. So we meditate and focus on the word stillness. And we repeat it in slow rhythm. Stillness. Stillness. And as we repeat it, we watch the water, the waves and ripples disappear. And the water become like a sheet mirror, and where we can see our reflection right in this water. So stillness is the second step. Now, why is stillness important? Because we cannot possibly use our mental speed to reach the quantum speed at the top of our pyramid. So the best option is to go totally still. Clear everything from our minds which exists outside of the onion and go completely still with zero interference to reach a state where you can then flow into and be absorbed into this apex state. Okay? So stillness is critical. And I have in the past shared the analogy of a cyclone. You've all seen a whirling cyclone. It's a vortex spinning. And it's spinning like a cone, and everything on the outside of the cyclone is chaotic, flying around, objects picked up from the ground and flying on the outside of the cyclone. That's where we are in our material plane, on the outside of the onion. And by going still, what we are doing is we are moving away. By going completely still, we are moving away from the chaotic outside of this cyclone or vortex into its core, which is completely still. And yet it is the core that has the power that drives the entire cyclone. So we are flowing into it through pure stillness. If we weren't still, we would continue to be in the chaos outside of the cyclone. When we are completely still, we can drift into its center. So that's why stillness is so important. And like the cyclone, if we go back to the analogy of the onion, we basically leave the chaos from the outer layers by becoming still, which enables us to flow into its absolutely still center core. Okay, so you can visualize that. So by this point, we have cleared our mind of all thought and gone still. But that is not enough to take us further, because there is still interference left from our five senses. Because remember, I said the quantum state is, in science, is considered a fragile state. A small interference does not let it work. So in meditation, we are going to a very robust state, but we can only get there without any interference. So our senses, our five senses, are the next sources of interference that we have to shut down. And in the meditation, once the water has gone completely still, and you can see your image in it, and the whole lake before you is like a sheet, a mirror, again reflecting the sky. Everything is completely still. And in that stillness, we then focus on the word silence. And we repeat it in very slow rhythm. Silence. Silence. And as we repeat this word, we find ourselves going into a deeper level of our being. And we are shutting down all interference. By going completely silent, we have in fact silenced not just our sense of hearing, but all our five senses: hearing, smell, taste, sight, and touch. We are all now shut down. Everything is shut down, presenting no more interference. So we have mind free of all thought and cleansed. We have achieved pure stillness. Now we have shut down all the interference of our senses. And now we are ready to enter our inner world of life force, our apex world. This is how powerful a focus we can develop. And in this world of life force and intelligence, we seek to become the life force itself. And life force is one. It is one soul. It is of the one soul. So we seek to become oneness. We seek to get to the level of oneness. Now, in the meditation preparation, we do that by going further into the lake until the water stops at our waist, and stop where the water reaches our waist. And before us, we see all these beautiful hundreds of little candles floating in little dishes along in front of us on the water, each one having a beautiful little flame. But we want all the candles to become one. We want them all to project and become oneness. So as we focus on oneness, these candles come together until they become just one candle with one bright, warm, loving light that flows through us, which is the light of oneness. And oneness is where we abandon every single division that exists in our being. Anything that is divisive, we let go from our being. We let it go because divisions are conflictive. They are the final interference we tune out of our beings. The oneness step places us fully in the inner world of life force, the apex world. Here, you are the life force. Yourself is the life force. So now you are the self, the higher self that lies well beyond the material self that you know at the base of the pyramid, which is of lower intelligence and yet sadly defines the reality you know. Now, in oneness, we are within a much, much higher state of reality. As the higher self now, we are becoming the higher self. We are the higher self. And we can reach that state with practice and conscious search, both spiritual and material. In the material plane, we can achieve this by consciously seeking the extraordinary in the ordinary. What do I mean by that? When you go into a park or a garden and you see all these trees, the trees show you an ordinary front, an ordinary part of themselves. But when we accept that the life force that has placed the tree there and made it what it is is present in the tree, we are actively looking at the tree and trying to engage with its life force, which is extraordinary. As we live consciously this way, seeking the extraordinary in everything we see ordinary, we begin to grow in our consciousness of oneness, because we then begin to realize, even at a material plane, that everything is one. We are living in oneness. We're just not seeing it because we are only used to seeing the ordinary. So in the material plane, we can achieve this practically and consciously. And it's a process, but we have to be disciplined, and we have to be mindful, and we have to be aware. And this mindfulness is very important. I mean, some of us drive from home to work, and we get to work and we can't even remember anything that happened on the way. Not that way. Mindful, conscious, recognizing the extraordinary. That's one way to do it in the material plane. And in the spiritual plane, we become the extraordinary, which is the higher self. Now we can all stop at this beautiful level and live an incredible life filled with enlightened thought, a life of inner paradise. We have found inner paradise, and we can all achieve that through practicing meditation and through going through these steps, or whatever approach you take that works for you. However, there are some of us that want more. We seek more. We're not happy with just that inner paradise. We seek to know our source, our creator, our ultimate essence. There was a man called Mansur al-Hallaj many years ago, who one day through meditation realized his true self. And he came out and he declared, "I am the truth." But the people of the time, who were not intellectually anywhere prepared to hear something like this, it was considered blasphemy. So they killed him. But it is said that even as he was dying and the blood was spilling on the ground, it wrote the words, "I am the truth." Now Mansur al-Hallaj said, "Why should I accept paradise when I can reach and taste the essence itself?" Now some of us have the same goal, the same drive, the same passion, the same desire to experience the essence itself, to become one with our Creator. So for that, in our meditation, once we are in oneness, we go into the linkage stage. The linkage stage is basically the stage that links us to the Creator. And we do that through our linkage word. Now, the linkage word is a word that we truly believe represents our source of creation. It doesn't have to be religious. Some of us, if we practice our meditation through religion, we will think of words like Allah, God, Christ, whatever our religious beliefs, Krishna, whatever they teach us. So we could use those words if we truly believe that that represents our Creator. In a non-religious way, we may think of origin, which is our source, universe, nature. Doesn't matter what the word is. Important is that we must believe that that word represents our source. Now, once we believe and we repeat that word, it takes on a very high vibration in the quantum state, a very high vibration in the oneness. And it is through that focus that we can seek our Creator. The Bhagavad Gita offers a good insight on seeking the Creator in meditation, where Sri Krishna says, and I just paraphrase, that through meditation, one beholds or sees the self, in the self, by the self. One beholds or sees the self, in the self, by the self, which now, based on what we have talked about today, means that when you enter the apex world, free of all interference, you become the life force. And within this life force, you are seeking its source, the self of the Creator Himself, by focusing completely on the linkage word. And that's how one can ultimately see and experience the Creator. It's a very difficult, very lofty goal, but some of us may be blessed with that passion and desire to get there. But success at this stage is purely by the grace of the Creator. Just because we try doesn't mean we will succeed. It is a grace that is bestowed upon us. And usually those who try hard, the Creator is very kind. So my dear friends, I'd like to conclude here, and we have much to reflect upon, and also we have to multiply our efforts in meditation to reach and live within our exalted state, our apex world. And when we get there, our life changes. It becomes totally enriched, totally enlightened, and we have a whole new experience of the life ahead of us, whatever time we are blessed with. So thank you all for being here. I'm really, really grateful for you for being here, and I pray that the light of our Creator may always be with you, to help you, guide you, protect you, and love you always. Stay blessed.